Genesis, Chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters, and God's Spirit was moving over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," so light appeared. God looked at the light, and it was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God named the light day, and he named the darkness night. Evening passed, and morning came. This was the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a space in the middle to separate the water into two parts." So God made the space and separated the water under the space from the water above it. It happened just as he commanded. God named that space sky. Evening passed, and morning came. This was the second day. Then God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered together so that the dry land may appear." It happened just as he commanded. God named the dry land earth, and he named the water that was gathered together seas. God looked at it, and it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth grow vegetation, grain-bearing plants and trees that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds." It happened just as he commanded. The earth produced vegetation, all sorts of plants with seeds in them, and trees bearing fruit with seeds in them. Every plant and every tree made its own kind of seeds. God looked at it, and it was good. Evening passed, and morning came. This was the third day. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky give light to the earth." It happened just as he commanded. God made the two large lights, larger light to rule during the day and the smaller light to rule during the night. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to give light to the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. God looked at it, and it was good. Evening passed, and morning came. This was the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the water be filled with many living creatures, and let the sky be filled with birds of every kind." God created the large sea creatures and every living creature that live in the water, and every kind of bird that flies in the sky. God looked at it, and it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." Evening passed, and morning came. This was the fifth day. Then God said, "Let the earth be filled with living creatures. Let each living creature produce more of its own kind. Let there be tame animals and small crawling creatures and wild animals, and let each produce more of its kind." It happened just as he commanded. So God made the wild animals, the tame animals, and all the small crawling creatures to produce more of its kind. God looked at it, and it was good. Then God said, "Now let us make human beings in our image and likeness. Let them rule over the fish in the sea and over the birds in the sky and over all animals and over the entire earth and over all crawling creatures on the earth." So God created human beings in his own image. He created them in his own likeness. He created them male and female. Then God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and take control of it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky. Rule over every living creature that live on the earth." Then God said, "I have given you all the grain-bearing plants throughout the earth and all the trees whose fruits have seeds in them for your food. And I have given all green plants as food for all the animals and for all the birds of the sky and for every little crawling creature." It happened just as he commanded. God looked at everything he had made, and it was very good. Evening passed, and morning came. This was the sixth day. Genesis, Chapter 2. So the creation of the heavens and the earth and everything in them was completed. By the seventh day God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the seventh day he rested from all his work. God blessed the seventh day and made it a holy day, because on that day he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. This is the history of the origin of the heavens and the earth. When the Lord God created the earth and the heavens, there were no plants on the earth and no seeds had sprouted, because he had not sent any rain, and there was no one to cultivate the land, but streams came up from the earth and watered the whole surface of the ground. Then the Lord God took some soil from the ground and formed a man out of it. He breathed the breath of life into man's nostrils, and the man became a living being. Then the Lord God made a garden in the east, in a place called Eden, and allowed the men to be there whom he had created. Then the Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground that were beautiful and good for food. In the middle of the garden, he placed the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed from Eden and watered the garden, and then the river separated into 4 smaller rivers. The name of the first river is Pishon. It flowed around the entire land of Havilah, where gold is found. The gold of that land is pure. Aromatic resin and onyx are also found there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It flowed around the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. It flowed east of Assyria. The fourth river was the Euphrates. The Lord God took the man and settled him in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and guard it. The Lord God warned him, "You may freely eat the fruit from every tree of the garden, but you must not eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. If you eat its fruit, you will certainly die." Then the Lord God said, "I see that it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a companion suitable for him." So the Lord God took soil from the ground and formed all the animals and all the birds. He brought them to Adam so he could name them. Whatever he called each living creature, that became its name. Adam gave names to all the tame animals, to all the birds of the sky, and to all the wild animals. But still, there was no suitable companion for him. So the Lord God caused Adam to sleep very deeply. While he was asleep, God took one of the ribs from his body and closed up the flesh at that place. The Lord God made a woman from the rib, and then brought her to Adam. And Adam said, "At last, this is someone whose bones came from my bones, whose flesh came from my flesh. I will call her woman, because she was taken out of man." That is why a man leaves his father and mother and be united with his wife, and they become one body. The man and his wife were naked, but they were not embarrassed. Genesis, chapter 3. The serpent was the craftiest among all the living creatures the Lord God had made. One day the serpent said to the woman, "Did God really tell you that you must not eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden?" The woman replied to the serpent, "No, we can eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God told us, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not even touch it, or you will die.'" But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not die. God knows that if you eat the fruit from that tree, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing the difference between good and evil." The woman was convinced that fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, so she took some and ate it. Then she gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he also ate it. As soon as they had eaten it, their eyes opened, and they realized they were naked, so they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the cool afternoon breeze of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees in the garden. But the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, "Where are you?" The man said, "I heard the sound of you walking in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God asked him, "Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat fruit from the tree that I warned you not to eat?" The man replied, "The woman whom you gave to be with me gave me fruit from that tree, so I ate it." Then the Lord God asked the woman, "What have you done?" She replied, "The serpent deceived me, so I ate it." So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all animals, domestic and wild. You will crawl on your belly and you will eat dust all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. You will bite her offspring's heel, but he will crush your head." Then God said to the woman, "I will increase your pain when you are pregnant. And in pain you will give birth. You will greatly desire your husband, but he will rule over you." Then God said to the man, "Since you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree which I warned you not to eat, the ground is cursed, and it is because of you. You will have to work very hard for your food. In pain you will eat its food all the days of your life. The ground will grow thorns and weeds for you, and you will have to eat the plants of the field. You will sweat and work hard for your food until you return to the ground, because you were taken from it. For you were made from soil, and to soil you will return." Adam named his wife Eve, because Eve would be the mother of all who live. The Lord God made tunics of animal skins for Adam and his wife and dressed them. Then the Lord God said, "Look, the human beings have become like us, knowing both good and evil. We must not allow them to stretch out their hands and take fruit from the tree of life and eat, and live forever." So the Lord God expelled them out of the Garden of Eden to cultivate the soil from which they had been formed. After the Lord God drove them out, he stationed cherubim on the east side of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. Genesis, chapter 4. Adam had physical relations with his wife Eve, so she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Cain, saying, "With the Lord's help, I have given birth to a man." Later Eve gave birth to another son and named him Abel. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd, and Cain became a farmer. At harvest time, Cain presented some of his crops as an offering to the Lord. Abel presented the best portions of the firstborn lambs from his flock as an offering to the Lord. The Lord was pleased with Abel and his offering, but he was not pleased with Cain and his offering. So Cain became extremely angry, and he looked annoyed and hostile. The Lord asked Cain, "Why are you so angry? And why do you look annoyed? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you don't, sin is ready to attack you. It wants to control you, but you must control it." Then Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Afterward the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain answered, "I don't know. Am I my brother's guardian?" But the Lord said, "What have you done? Listen. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed and banished from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. No longer will the ground grow good crops for you, even though you work hard. From now on you will be a degraded wanderer on the earth." Cain replied to the Lord, "This punishment is too hard for me to bear. You have banished me from the land and from your presence. You have made me a degraded wanderer, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "No. If anyone kills you, I will punish that person 7 times more." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn that no one should kill him. So Cain went away from the Lord and lived in the land of Nod. Cain had physical relations with his wife, so she became pregnant and gave birth to a son named Enoch. Later Cain built a city and gave it the same name of his son Enoch. Enoch had a son named Irad. Irad had a son named Mehujael. Mehujael had a son named Methuselah, and Methuselah had a son named Lamech. Lamech married 2 women. The name of the first was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. Jabal was the ancestor of those who live in tents and raise cattle. Jabal was Jubal's brother. Jubal was the ancestor of all musicians who play the harp and the flute. Zillah gave birth to Tubal-Cain. Tubal-Cain was the ancestor of all who made all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was named Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, "Hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to me. I have killed a man who attacked me, a young man who injured me. If Cain's killer is punished 7 times, then Lamech's killer will be punished 77 times." Adam had physical relations with his wife, so she gave birth to another son. She named him Seth, saying, "God has given me another son in place of Abel, whom Cain killed." Seth also had a son. He named him Enosh. At that time people began to worship the Lord by name. Genesis, chapter 5. This is the genealogy of Adam. When God created human beings, he made them like himself. He created them male and female, and he blessed them, and named them humans beings. When Adam was 130 years old, he had a son who was like him, and he named him Seth. After the birth of Seth, Adam lived another 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Adam lived a total of 930 years, and then he died. When Seth was 105 years old, he had a son named Enosh. After the birth of Enosh, Seth lived another 807 years, and had other sons and daughters. Seth lived a total of 912 years, and then he died. When Enosh was 90 years old, he had a son named Kenan. After the birth of Kenan, Enosh lived 815 years and had other sons and daughters. Enosh lived a total of 905 years, and then he died. When Kenan was 70 years old, he had a son named Mahalalel. After the birth of Mahalalel, Kenan lived another 840 years and had other sons and daughters. Kenan lived a total of 910 years, and then he died. When Mahalalel was 65 years old, he had a son named Jared. After the birth of Jared, Mahalalel lived another 830 years and had other sons and daughters. Mahalalel lived a total of 895 years, and then he died. When Jared was 162 years old, he had a son named Enoch. After the birth of Enoch, Jared lived another 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Jared lived a total of 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch was 65 years old, he had a son named Methuselah. After the birth of Methuselah, Enoch walked with God for 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God, and then he disappeared, because God took him to be with him. When Methuselah was 187 years old, he had a son named Lamech. After the birth of Lamech, Methuselah lived another 782 years and had other sons and daughters. Methuselah lived a total of 969 years, and then he died. When Lamech was 182 years old, he had a son. Lamech named his son Noah, saying, "May he bring us relief from all our hard work and painful labor of farming this ground that the Lord has cursed." After Noah was born, Lamech lived another 595 years and had other sons and daughters. Lamech lived a total of 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he had sons named Shem, Ham, and Japheth.